Hey everybody, Chris here. A couple of quick notes on this episode. We're talking with Rhino Skin Solutions, and they wanted me to let you know that their products and what they claim to do have not been approved by the FDA. I want to let you know that, however, they are approved by the power company. And Rhino was also nice enough, if you stick through to the end of the episode, you'll hear that they're giving us a discount code of 15% off of any of the products you order until March 31st, 2017. And that code is Power Company, all one word, capital P, capital C. And, we get nothing on this kickback. This is just for you guys. So it's not a sponsorship thing. We're still keeping this sponsor free, but I think it's a great product and you guys deserve to have it. So we talked to Rhino after they wanted to create a Power Company Performance Pack, what Nate and I recommend. And so we came up with a sampler pack of sorts. Nate has different skin than I have. So, we put together a pack that will allow you to figure out what works best for you. And you can find that on Rhino's website, rhinoskinsolutions.com/store, or you can go to powercompanyclimbing.com, and on the show notes page for this episode, you can find the link there. And we do get a small kickback from that. So if you guys want to help support the podcast, this is a great way to do it. I'm going to go ahead and launch into this episode, and you guys are going to get another one in just a couple of days with Jonathan Segrist. So enjoy this one.
Maybe don't know.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Chris Hampton. Welcome to whatever episode this ends up being, of the Power Company podcast, brought to you by powercompanyclimbing.com. This is going to be a little extra bonus episode for you guys because, frankly, you deserve it. And I'm here in the mobile Rhino laboratory. Is that what this place is? Is that right?
Merle.
Yep. Merle. I'm in Merle right now, and I'm here with the Rhino Skin Solutions folks, and we're going to talk skincare because it's something a lot of you are fucking up, really. I see a lot of you guys doing crazy shit to your skin, so we're going to talk a little bit about it and what products Rhino has, because I really believe in this product. I reached out to these guys this fall when I went into project mode way too soon in the red, and it was like 89 degrees and 100% humidity, and I was trying to do the short bouldery routes that have hard boulders right off the ground, and I was destroying my skin. So I reached out to these guys on the recommendation of my good friend Colette, and they sent me product, and I loved it. I've been using it since, and my skin has been amazing. I've been climbing full time and haven't had a split, haven't had anything go wrong. My skin gets thin like a normal climber's would, but it heals up in a couple of days. So I wanted to bring these guys on for you guys. I think it's important that you know what they've got. So how about you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm Justin, owner, Rhino Skin Solutions.
Okay, and
I'm Andy, wife of Justin.
And you guys kind of got into skincare in a roundabout sort of way, right? Like Justin, you're a chef,
mm-hmm. Yep.
And Andy, you're a pharmacist.
Yep.
So you kind of have the perfect backgrounds. Like, the chemical side. Justin can cook everything up. You know how it's going to all work together.
Yeah, it was interesting putting it together. We had some very in-depth conversations in the house around the dinner table, and we've both been climbing for long enough that we finally figured out what to do for our hands. And it was fun getting it going and seeing it work, and we are where we are now.
Yeah, why did you decide to try to make something for climber skincare? How'd that idea come about?
Andy used to use a product called Avita foot cream, and me being your classic male rock climber, I never used anything on my hands. I would go rock climbing. I wouldn't wash them. I'd go to sleep and eat burritos, not necessarily in that order, and just have dirty hands. And Andy, at the end of every night, would put on Avita foot cream on her hands, and it smelled good. And one night I was like, all right, let me try that. And so I put it on my hands. I had washed them that night, and
that night, the first time in the trip, you had washed them.
Well, it might have been at home, first time in a while at home. Put it on my hands, and the next day they felt great. All the chips were healed, and I was like, wow, there's something to this, I think.
Yeah.
And so we started using it more often, and I started using it religiously. And
now, was Avita foot cream just a moisturizer, or is there some other component to it?
Yeah, it's similar to the Rhino repair cream. It's got some menthol in there, botanicals, but through research and talking with Andy, the thing we found to be the most beneficial in there, other than the moisturizer, was the salicylic acid. And we kind of did some research, found out how much salicylic acid should go into cream or lotion to get the benefit we wanted, and we kind of played with it. I don't remember the exact percents that the FDA says you're allowed to put in foot cream, but or hand cream or lotion, but we kind of played with the high end and the low end, and came out somewhere in the middle. And so we looked at the rest of the ingredients and kind of got rid of the ones with really long, complex names, kept the natural ones, and kind of put it together. And I think we did it because the Avita foot cream was really expensive, and we were like, I think we can make this.
Yeah,
the classic climber. Like, I think we could do this ourselves.
I could save money for more burritos.
Yeah, exactly. Burritos and 6-packs. We tried, and we wasted a lot of product trying to make it, and being unsuccessful. But I think we eventually made one that we were both really surprised, felt good, worked, and smelled great too.
Yeah. And did that the first success, is that what's Repair now, or has it gone through other iterations?
Oh, it's gone through a long a lot of changes.
Okay.
The first one was a lot more water in it. We tried to make it thinner. We had a different bottle that was a pump, so it had to be thinner to work in the small pump. And
it had too much time in it.
Oh yeah. Do
you remember that?
Yeah, it was like real rooty smelling.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It was a little off-putting, actually. And so it was real
that was
nice.
when climbers were all hippies.
Exactly. Yeah, just like a year and a half ago when they were all hippies. What were we talking about? Oh, and so it was real watery, but it felt dry, and that was the number one thing we wanted. We didn't want it to be greasy.
Yeah.
And it took some extra emulsifiers that we didn't want in there. So we used two main ingredients to make it into a lotion, and it took a while to find out the correct percentages of each one. One's an emulsifier, one's a thickener, both vegetable based.
Why'd you go lotion instead of the typical climbing bar that we see out there?
I think there's a lot of those out there, and they work for flappers and cuts for sure.
Yep. You kind of pack it in there.
Yep. But for everyday healing of the skin, you don't necessarily just want an occlusive, and that's basically what all the salves are. You just put a wax type thing on your hand,
right.
And some of them have antibacterial properties too, which is great. Goes back to wash your hands.
Right.
You just want to get rid of those bugs. But they're all just waxy occlusives, and that holds moisture in your hand, and that's why it helps heal. But we were seeing people put it on their hands and then they would wipe it on their pants because it would still have that greasy feeling on it.
Right.
Or even testing out our product, people would be like, oh, I don't want to try it. I have to work on my computer.
Yep,
and they
for
just
sure.
had that idea of putting a salve on their hands and then typing.
That's one of the things that makes me the most nervous about a lot of the products out there is how greasy I feel afterward.
Yeah.
You know, my fiance won't even use it, a lot of the products, because it feels greasy. This is the first one actually that she's like, I have mine over. Normally I have my product and she has her expensive lotions and all this over here. And now she's like, where's the repair at? You know, where's the performance?
You got to hide it in a different
so
drawer.
now I have to hide it so she can't have it.
Yeah, so that was basically what we wanted. We wanted a non-greasy product. And the Vita foot cream was non-greasy. And so we kind of looked at how you get that done. We figured it out. We made the product. And that's, one of our major marketing ideas is re-educating everybody that we have a product. It's non-greasy. You can put it on. It dries fairly quickly within a minute. And you can go about your day. It absorbs in. It like transports all the ingredients into your hand. So that's kind of where we went with it.
Okay. The other interesting thing I think about your kind of just your whole product line in general is that it's not just, you don't just have moisturizers. There's also, first off, antihydral. A lot of you guys out there have heard of antihydral, and a lot of people are nervous about antihydral, and for good reason. It's kind of a scary, strong, angry product, and I've seen it fuck up some people's fingers.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of people are scared to use it. I get questions all the time, do you use antihydral? And I used to use it very, very little because I was nervous about it, But you guys have taken, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the active ingredient from antihydral, which is methenamine. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
And you've mixed it in with essentially, part methenamine and part moisturizer.
Yep.
Is how I understand it.
Exactly.
In varying degrees for different products.
Yep. The Performance is the only one that is mixed with a skin conditioner.
Okay.
I like to use skin conditioner because when people think of moisturizer,
Yep, that's probably a better word.
Yeah, because what we're going for is you don't want like hard, thick calluses because they rip
And some
off and
people think you
they
do.
break. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so with the Performance, it has a skin conditioner to help keep your skin like more pliable, but it also has a very low concentration of methenamine, which is 4%, which helps the antiperspirant, stops your hands from sweating.
Right.
And so antihydral is 13% methenamine.
Okay.
And so the first thing we did actually was take antihydral and we took a Vita foot cream and we put them together. And we brought it down to Bishop, and a group of my friends used it, and we were all like, I think it's working. I'm not really sure, but I think it is. And we
Did
used
you tell
it.
these climbers they were putting foot cream on their hands, and did they freak out about that?
I think they freaked out more about the foot cream than they did about the antihydral.
I would bet.
Like, is it going to make, because everybody's like, is it going to make me grease off holds?
Right.
Because they wanted those big thick calluses.
Mm-hmm.
But we treated it like antihydral, got the toothpicks out, put a nice
just put it
thin
right on the-
little bit on
the
our tips,
pads,
and
yep.
we all had great trip and sent our projects, and I was like, maybe there's something to it.
Yeah.
And so we made the Performance. That was probably our second. We had Repair and Performance, and that was our first two products.
Okay.
Yeah. And about methenamine, I think you were saying like people are scared of it.
Yeah.
And I think people get scared of it because it is super potent. In that paste of antihydral, you put a lot of it on your hand, and then people sleep with it. And so you're getting a lot of the product into your hand. And so we tried to make a product that you couldn't overdo. And that all depends on your skin type. But it's a lot harder to overdo it with the performance cream or the dry spray.
Right.
But scientifically, if we can go in this tangent,
Sure.
methenamine isn't dangerous at the levels climbers are using it at. I think there's a common thought that you're putting formaldehyde on your hand.
Right. And I'm just thinking dangerous in the terms of
It's going to
over drying and cracking your skin. Yeah.
So
Not like causing cancer or anything.
yeah,
like that, so.
yeah, it's not going to cause cancer. The formaldehyde evaporates off your hands.
Right.
And I think we've made a product that like you can't. It's hard to overuse it. Maybe with the dry spray, if you already have dry hands, you might have some negative effects. It's just harder. It's harder to overuse it, and I think a lot of people will be more successful with what we offer than with antihydral.
Yep. Okay. And antihydral's been around a long time.
Yep.
And it was developed a long time ago. Was it developed specifically for people with
hyperhidrosis?
Hyperhidrosis,
Yep.
is that what it was called? And that's what it was developed for, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Antihydral. Yep. That's what it was for.
And that's been around eons, and climbers don't have excessively sweaty hands. Most of them don't. Maybe Nate does.
Nate,
At least he believes
Nate's
he
unique.
does. So we don't necessarily need that amount of drying anyway. And you were saying something last night that dry fingers don't heal.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about skincare in general. Some of the, beliefs about skincare that aren't really true. So,
What are the beliefs that are not true? Well, we already did you want thick, hard calluses.
Right. People think you want these super thick, little hooves on your fingers that turn yellow and that's not really the case, right?
Yeah, but that's also fed into another fad that I really don't think is that great of people incessantly filing their skin too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen people file their skin straight into a hole. Like they've literally been filing their fingers and then like, oh no, I'm bleeding.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I wonder if it's become a habit like chalking up.
right. Oh yeah, I could see that.
Because I stand there and just chalk up sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm
Well
not
before
climbing.
you're about to jump on a
I'm
boulder
not getting on
problem.
anytime soon.
Yeah.
I'm eating a burrito and I'm chalking up. It's ridiculous.
A little magnesium in the diet is probably good for you.
So I wonder, I've seen the same thing. People just sitting there chatting and sanding away at their fingertips,
Yep.
So why should we sand our tips? What's the purpose behind it?
I actually don't sand my tips, but I'll sand my creases.
Okay.
I found that hangboarding increases the skin in my crease. It makes the skin in my creases thicker, and so those are more prone to splitting. They don't necessarily crack. I have fairly wet skin, so they won't crack on their own. But if there's tough skin in my creases, it gets hooked on holds.
Gotcha.
And it'll just peel it up. It'll rip it. And so what I found myself doing was just filing down my creases until they're like pretty thin, just to keep them flexible and keep them from getting hooked on stuff. Pad wise, I don't really file my pads. I mean, you can see they're pretty good. They're smooth.
Yeah.
I rock climbed all day today, and they're like pretty good.
Yeah, I think the only time I sand or file my pads is, first off, I'm never going to get calluses thick enough that I need to sand down my pads because I'm rock climbing.
Right.
So I'm wearing the skin off. That's usually the problem, I think. But when I do tear little pieces of skin and they're uneven, ridges on my pads, then I sand those down. But that's really the only time that I pull out a sanding block.
Yep. I had a callus. There's a lot of roof problems here in Waco, and I had a callus on some lower fingers, and I sanded those off because I felt them like getting pulled off.
Yep. Like you get the little jug calluses. And those kind of things.
I was like, I got to get rid of these. So there's definitely times that I sand, but I think I'm lucky. I don't get those little ridges of skin at all. I don't really know why, but I definitely get crease buildup, and I definitely sand those off.
Okay.
What grit of sandpaper do you use?
Good question. I think 80 and 100 grit is the best. We have some nail files that we bought, and they're on the website. shameless plug. But they're 80, 100.
Okay.
You can find them pretty much anywhere, and they're washable. And
Are those the same ones that come in the little holiday packs that you guys had?
Yeah, exactly.
Christmas. Okay,
Yep.
cool. Yeah, those are great.
yeah, durable. They don't seem to wear out real fast. I guess
Yep.
that's what durable means.
Yep, Annalisa stole that pretty quickly as
Oh,
soon as
gone.
as soon as it was there. I haven't seen it again
My
because
God.
it went into her bag. So
Oh boy.
yeah, and so let's talk. A little more about skincare, clipping.
Mm-hmm.
When should you be clipping at your skin?
Yeah, if you have a flapper, I got a gnarly flapper the other day, and it had like real big ridges all around it.
Yep.
Just ripped a real deep flapper right off. And so I clipped that off, and then I kind of trimmed it up to make it a little bit more smooth.
Yep. Do you kind of bevel the edges?
Yeah, exactly.
Of the flapper.
And I haven't gotten to the state where I haven't gotten to the proficiency where I get a razor to it.
Right.
That's a little
I've
freaky
seen
to me.
some people do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I work with knives plenty that I don't need razor blades close to my skin, and that seems to help. Cuticles, I'll clip my cuticles down because I find it helps prevent them from just popping open and bleeding.
Yep.
But I also take repair cream and rub it into the cuticles as well. Keep them nice and flexible.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like Nate, my skin's pretty moist in general, and so it's mostly good. I don't have a lot of maintenance.
And you have drier skin, Andy.
Yeah,
right?
and yeah, it's dry
Yeah,
skin.
my skin is a little bit too dry.
Okay. And
So-
do you ever use the performance at all, or you
No, I only use the repair
always
cream.
repair?
Mhm.
Okay. I think that's something interesting because a lot of people, will latch on automatically to the things that have drying agents in them because they're just like, my skin needs to be drier. It needs to be drier.
Right.
And I think that's skipping a really important component of it, especially right after you finish climbing. If your skin, if you've got that Red River jug rash or something like that, and you're not going to be climbing tomorrow, if you've got a few days before you climb again, I think repair is the only option there.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah,
mind.
absolutely.
I could be totally wrong, but
No, I agree.
in my mind, that's what I reach for immediately. So now let's talk about the products a little bit,
Yeah.
what you've got and what they're for, because when you guys sent me the first box of stuff, I spent some time on the site trying to learn when do I use what, and I went into it with the idea that I'm going to try and review all these products, so I want to use them how they suggest that I use them. And basically the suggestions you gave are what I've followed and how I would continue to do it. So let's just give everybody a primer on each product so they know what they're getting into, kind of starting from base level.
Yeah. Can we back up for a second? Because
For
I'm
sure.
interested. Do you clip your skin, and what do you do?
I do not clip my skin unless I have like rolled up edges,
Right. Okay.
little tears, things like that. And then I clip it smooth, just like we were talking about with the edge of a flapper. I clip all that down smooth, and then I try to sand it a little smoother.
Cool.
Annalisa clips her skin incessantly,
Really?
constantly. And I'm like, what are you doing? You need to stop.
Does she have like little calluses she's clipping off?
No,
or?
I think it's just a habit at this point. I think she just pulls out the clippers. We've got like 5 pairs of clippers in the car everywhere she's going to be, so that at any moment she can grab clippers and start clipping little
Oh boy.
pieces off her skin. So I don't know what's going on
Delicious.
there, but hopefully I'm going to make her listen to this and she'll stop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just clip the little edges just to smooth things out.
Yep.
Really, that's it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get my fingers smooth.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
I think that is the goal. Just get them smooth enough where they're not going to catch on some crystals. And Cool. Products.
Okay. Yeah, let's
see.
do it.
What do we got? Well, like we were saying, our main flagship product's the repair cream. It's every day, whenever, however often you want to do it. Put it on your hands, clean hands, wash your hands, get all that chalk, all the dirt off of them, and then repair cream. It's got like menthol in it, and that smells good. It's analgesic, which takes care of some pain. It's got peppermint oil in there, willow bark, which has it's kind of similar to salicylic acid,
Okay.
and it's a way we can bump the acidity up to help your skin turn over. Because what salicylic acid does is it gets rid of the chipped up layers on top and
Okay.
helps bring the good skin down low to the top. And so
that's interesting.
you get rid of all that messed up skin. And this could be why I don't file as much, maybe, is when I use repair cream, it's getting rid of all that chipped up, gnarly skin that you would usually file off.
Yep. Okay. And I think it's important because what you said last night that I've already talked about is dry skin doesn't heal. You know, and we're going out there and we're abusing our skin. That's that's what we do all day long. And then we just expect it to heal overnight. So it needs to be moisturized or conditioned.
Yep. Yeah, I think if you look at the body's natural process, when we're climbing, we haven't measured it. We have that little handy measuring tool.
Yeah, yep.
But when we're climbing, I think we're all going to get our skin pretty dry. The chalk's on our hands. I bet if we measured it, if we feel we have good skin, I bet we're in the low 30% moisture humidity in our skin. Andy's usually around 22.
Wow.
But you think that's too dry?
I think that's too dry.
Yep.
You're dry firing off of things. That's why you think it's too dry.
Yeah, so it took me a while to figure that out, but I would notice at least at Smith, on more relatively humid days that I was climbing better and I wasn't coming off. And
Right.
so now we're kind of in the process of maybe coming up with a formula for a humectant, so something to help with dry skin. So the opposite end.
Okay. Yeah. I have a few friends that either, before they get on a boulder, they'll dip their hands in water, or, Nick Duddle can't sweat, so he carries around a spray bottle.
Yep.
So you're looking at that end of people.
Yeah.
With Nick being the far extreme.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I've gotten into the habit of doing is I still use chalk because I'm just conditioned to use it. It feels better to have it on my hands. But I also kind of blow on my hands right before I go onto the wall just to add a little bit of humidity.
Okay.
That's not necessarily sanitary, so if there were a different way for me to get moisture into my skin,
Right.
I'd prefer to do that instead of spreading my
that's
germs
interesting.
on
I
the
don't know
wall.
that anyone's ever tried to reach out to that end, and you can't just use a normal lotion because that's
got
adding oil to it. Yeah.
Yeah, so with our little skin moisture reader,
Do you have that handy, by the way?
I would have to look for it. I think it's back here, but it's not handy.
Okay. I was curious because I was using Repair last night and you measured my fingers and it was 99.
Yep.
Which is great since I was trying to heal my skin.
Yeah, exactly.
And I used Performance about an hour ago. So I was curious if it was any different today.
The way that thing works is it measures the conductivity between your on your skin.
Okay.
And so water is really conductive. And so if it has low conductivity or low moisture, it's going to have a lower number. And so when you put any lotion on your hand or any balm, oil is super conductive.
Oh, okay,
and so it's going to read 99% almost all the time.
Gotcha.
Unless you've totally absorbed. Like I don't know how long ago you did it, but it might have absorbed.
That
by
makes
now.
sense. Yeah.
But like, I was going somewhere with this.
We totally derailed you.
Right after you're done rock climbing, you can look at your tips and your body's like, we need to heal these things.
Yeah.
And they're
glistening.
Yeah, exactly. They're pink, they're swollen, they're wet. And so that's your body saying like, all right, I'm going to make the perfect environment to make this thing heal.
Sure.
But if you use, moving on from our repair cream, if you use the Performance of the dry spray, that's going to create a drier environment on your fingertips. Mm-hmm. And so when you're rock climbing, why we say you want durable, flexible, dry skin is because if you're on those holds, whether they're slopers or crimpers, and you have low humidity on your fingers and like, I think 35%, maybe 35 to 40 seems like kind of ideal before you start greasing off holds because your hands are too dry. So if you have the perfect humidity on your fingers, your skin moves less on the holds
Gotcha.
So you're not gonna grab a crimper, and your fingers aren't gonna start rolling off the hold and abrading.
Mm-hmm.
And so the less abrasion you have, the less your body's going to have to heal your skin, and the less moisture is going to send there as well.
Right. Okay, so when do we use the performance? Do we wait until our skin is, already seepy and
too late?
That's too late.
Yeah, for sure. For all you sport climbers out there, I am a every other move chalker. I can rarely make it through a complicated crux without chalking.
Yep. That's something I actually practiced for a whole season, forcing myself to not chalk through long sequences.
Yep.
And now I'm much better at it.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Because there was like a 20-foot panel I had to get through.
Yep.
And just no time to chalk. And so the way I do it is I go dry spray for one day, and then if I have a climbing week where I know I'm going to climb like 2 days on, 1 day off.
When you have the CP tips?
Before. This is, let's just give in like perfect skin for you, the best skin you can possibly start with.
Before you're going sport climbing?
Yep.
Okay.
So the night before my first day of sport climbing, or maybe even 3 nights before, if I want to like dial my skin in before I go, and this goes for bouldering as well, dry spray, because that for me gives the most effective antiperspirant dose available. I spray it all over my hands, I rub it in, forget about it.
Okay.
The next day, if I go climbing, they should be drier than nothing. And then I can tell that day, like, I think they could be a little drier. And for me, that's usually the case. And so I'll go performance. And so first day dry spray, second day performance. And if I'm planning like a 2 on 1 off, 2 on 1 off climbing spree, I'll do performance the night before every single one of those climbing days.
And then before your rest day,
I'll do repair. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the methenamine works for 3 days. It creates this little protein plug. So you put methenamine on your skin sweats, your sweat's slightly acidic, and it breaks the methenamine in two. And that's where people, that causes the formaldehyde that people talk about. Because methenamine is half formaldehyde. So when it breaks in two, you have formaldehyde and ammonia. Both of those evaporate, creates a protein plug, and that protein plug goes into your sweat gland, and it stays there for 3 days.
Okay.
And so you can, with the performance or the dry or any methenamine product, if you use it more than once every 3 days, you're going to build increasing antiperspirant conditions. I don't really know how else to say that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So for me, I have pretty sweaty hands. I'll use the performance 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off for as long as I have that climbing trip.
Yep. Okay. That makes total sense then. I like the description of how methenamine works.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And it puts a visual in my head that makes sense. It doesn't seem just like magic anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it still kind of seems like magic.
It's a little bit of magic. I'm always surprised it works. I'm like, I don't get it, but it works.
Yeah. So if you're already seepy, thin skin, is that just a repair moment? Like,
that is a good question. I don't think I have the complete answer for that yet. Some people have luck. I think the answer is just like if you drink too much beer, the only way to overcome being drunk is just to wait it out.
Right.
There's no amount of coffee that's going to help. There's no amount of aspirin. You just got to wait. And so if you have CP tips, there's not a lot you can do.
Okay.
You just kind of have to wait.
Yep.
I know some people,
but you can use repair in that situation.
You can't. Yeah, repair will help because it's a antibacterial, so it'll keep your skin a little cleaner. It's an occlusive, so it'll keep the moisture in there.
Okay.
It'll definitely help get that skin regeneration for sure.
Okay. So repair is exactly what it sounds like. Yep. It's to repair things. Performance, you guys say it's for road trip sending sprees. I think that's what it says on the bottle, maybe on your site.
Yep.
And that sounds like pretty much what you just described. The dry is similar to the same thing, but more concentrated.
Yeah. So the Performance has a skin conditioner and methenamine.
And the dry
it's 4%. Exactly. It's a 4%. The Performance is 4% methenamine. The dry is 8%.
Okay, so it's not quite to the level of antihydral.
Exactly, it's 2/3 as strong.
Okay, and it won't mess your creases up, putting it in the creases?
Not across the board. If you already have semi-dry hands and just want a little extra dry, it could mess your creases up just because you already have dry hands.
Gotcha.
But we have a little roller applicator as well, so you can just pinpoint.
I like that one.
Pinpoint your fingers.
Yeah,
I think that was probably the number one feedback we had was, hey, can you guys have a roll-on applicator or something else? So the National Institute of Health did studies with methenamine, and the percentage of methenamine they used was 8%.
Okay.
And so the studies we were reading, we were like, well, let's just do that because it seems super effective.
Yeah.
So it's alcohol-based instead of skin conditioner-based.
Okay.
We made it for one of our test subjects has really sweaty hands, very moist, high skin turnover. And he was just like, look, when you put this in a skin conditioner, my hands just are so wet, nothing happens. I could use it 13 times a day and it wouldn't help at all.
Right.
So we put in alcohol. The alcohol helps get the grease off your hands. And there's some menthol in there as well to kind of that cooling anti-inflammatory effect.
Gotcha. So if you're pretty dry skinned already, dry is probably not something you need.
I would say that. Our number one thing is we don't want people to mess their skin up and have to take a day off of rock climbing. So I'm always a little more...
Don't let any of my clients hear that because I'm trying to get them all to rest more as it is.
Just kidding. But messing up your skin isn't the best way to force yourself to rest.
That's not the reason to rest for sure.
The better way to rest is just wear sandals and drink margaritas.
Yep. Lay out in the sun.
Yep.
Okay. And then what else do we have here? We've got your split stick. Is that right?
Yep. There's a split stick. We, just being a skincare company, we wanted to do the non-greasy thing. Mm-hmm. We have the repair, the performance, the dry, all non-greasy. But we just felt that we needed to have a product that was in that salve segment.
Something you could pack into your little splits and things like that.
Yeah. If you have a split or a goby, you don't really want the repair going in there. You want to use the repair because it's going to help your skin heal. It's going to create a good environment. So we made the splits.
Why would you not want the repair to go in there?
Because it's got salicylic acid, so it's not going to feel that great.
Sting a little.
Yeah,
and definitely. I have a habit of rubbing my eyes no matter what I've just touched, and I can definitely feel it when I rub my eyes after putting repair on.
Yeah,
so I'll do it immediately every single time. It doesn't matter.
Just scratch your nose or whatever.
Exactly.
I always go to my temples, and it feels really good.
That's a good idea.
So the split stick comes in 2 sizes, stick in a tin, and it's got beeswax and grapeseed oil, which has a high amount of vitamin E in there, some arnica, honey, tea tree oil. And so it's got some antibacterial properties. But basically the reason it works to help heal splits and gobies is because it's an occlusive. It's keeping moisture in. And if you look at a split or goby, they weep. And so that's your body just pushing moisture out, trying to keep it a good humidity level. And so this just helps with that. And then, like you said, you can pack it in there and then put on repair on top. And that's a way to go. Yep.
Okay. Speaking of splits, I don't think we even really talked about like those little smiley face splits that people get from crimping. I'm sure you guys see them in Smith all the damn time.
Our buddy Mike, who was just on the trip with us, he got a split his very first day here.
Oh, man.
And it was a gnarly one. I was like, is that all the way to the bone? It wasn't.
Do you guys deal with those in the same way as we talked about with flappers, just trimming the edges down? Or
Yeah, I think so. I tried to give him advice, and I think everybody deals with it their own way. But I think just trimming those edges, getting them nice and beveled, and there's different theories about sleeping with your fingers straight open.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do you recommend splinting fingers like a lot of people do?
I'm not sure. I haven't really studied it or looked into studies. I think the reason people splint their finger, it just occurred to me a couple days ago when I was talking with Mike. I just threw him under the bus, I guess. But
Here comes Mike.
He's a big fan of splinting his finger. He was actually doing a Band-Aid with tape on top.
Okay.
But that, I don't think you need to do that. I think people do it because they find they sleep with their hand in a fist, and then in the morning they open their hand and their skin splits again.
Right.
And the reason it's going to split is because it's probably too dry.
Yep.
And so when you sleep in a splint with your fingers open, it does a couple things. It's going to keep a lot more moisture in your finger where it's split. And so your skin's going to be a lot more flexible. And so when you move it around, it's not going to tear apart and it's not going to be chapped. And then, it might also create a environment where it does heal from the bottom to the top, and that would be good if you have your split open, nicely trimmed, clean. The skin's gonna grow from the bottom to the top instead of from the sides.
Okay. Yep.
Again, I haven't really looked into it too much, so it's all speculation.
I wondered because coming from a gymnastics background, when we would get flappers from from rings or bars or whatever, we would moisturize a ton,
Interesting.
And I've continued to do that as a climber, and pretty much every single winter, just because of, baseboard heat in my house, my skin gets super dry. I get one of those little smiley face splits on every finger, except for my pinky, because I don't use my pinky. On all 6 of the other fingers, I get one every winter, and then I trim off the sides, and I.
Where do you get it on your finger? Is it
always
right above the crease?
Right above the crease.
Yeah. Okay.
And kind of on the pinky side of the finger.
Okay.
That's where it is every single time.
So one thing I've been thinking about those splits is. Well, I guess it's 2 things. What causes them and how do you prevent them? And so when you're hanging on a hangboard, where does that edge hit your fingers? When you're doing like max hangs or something?
It's not where the edge hits. It's that my skin is pulling there.
Okay.
And it's partly because I hold everything half crimped. So I'm never, that joint is never pointed down on a hold. It's always pulling my skin.
Right. Okay.
And it just tears
so you think
right there.
It literally just tears it apart.
It's a little tear every single time.
Interesting.
And I mean, I can watch it start to happen, and I've felt it pull apart while I'm hangboarding. I can feel it pulling piece by piece by piece until it pops.
That I had a similar feeling to that a couple weeks ago on a moonboard. It was my first ever moonboard session. I was trying hard. It was really disappointing, but I was grabbing a pinch and just leaning back against it, pushing my foot in the opposition, and I felt my skin do the exact same thing, start to tear, and I was like, oh no. And I was like, I wonder if this is gonna work. I grabbed some repair cream and just jammed it right into there, and not very much, just enough to cover right where I felt that tear start. And on my skin there wasn't a tear, but it felt like it was gonna go. Yep. And I finished the session and it didn't tear. So that might be like you have entered the the too dry zone, maybe.
Yeah,
for your skin.
I think that's exactly what's going on, because this winter I wasn't in the house at all.
Mm-hmm.
I was outside all the time, and before I messaged you guys, I was starting to get a little bit of a tear from climbing on all these tiny little crimps, and that almost tear persisted for quite a while, and I just kept trimming the edges down, but it never ever got to the point of blood, and now it's healed.
Cool.
So, but I've not stopped climbing at all. Whereas every other winter, my skin would get too dry. I would get one tear every single winter, one tear on each finger.
Oh my God.
Trim the edges of
That's
it.
so brutal.
Moisturize, and then it would be fine a few days later. But I've never slept with my fingers splinted.
Right.
Or kept open in any way. So, and it's never re-torn. So
Yeah.
I was just curious what your
I think just
thoughts
keeping
on
that
were.
proper humidity of your fingers.
Yeah. I think that's probably more important than keeping it straight.
Yeah, because I can see that. And another thing I was thinking is it happens the same place every time.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if, like, on my fingers, there's like 2 creases actually per joint. And I was wondering for people that get a ton of splits, if they filed their creases more, if they'd actually change where their crease was.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a theory of mine.
Yeah.
So if you file down so far that you constantly have new skin growing there, because on my, like, I'm looking at my hand.
I kind of get 2 slightly overlapping creases when I bend those joints, and definitely one of those creases is where the split happens.
Yep. So if you like file that down enough where it's super soft and you are still bending your fingers, is that crease going to change place? And I have no idea if it would or wouldn't.
Interesting idea.
But it might if you do that consistently enough.
We're all just sitting here staring at our fingers now.
Classic.
Which is what climbers do all
it's
the
either
time.
your phone or the fingers.
Yeah.
If you file that down enough and you just go about your day and just really incessantly keep that skin thin but hydrated, is that crease going to change? That's my newest theory.
Okay.
So,
you're going to test that
all
out?
you out there, get on Chris's Facebook page.
We'll have you back on after you test that theory out.
All right.
See if we can debunk J-Star's splint your finger
Split
method.
the fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You have other products?
We do. We got
use?
Mikey's Tip Juice.
Yep.
And that is just about antihydral strength.
That's the strong shit.
Yep. Right now we put it in with aloe because I wanted to keep that skin moisture. Aloe is a humectant, so it'll transport moisture and the dissolved products in there, which is alcohol and methenamine. It'll transport all of that into your skin.
Okay, so it brings it in instead of sitting on the top like antihydral does.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, humectant is something like honey or glycerin, or those are the 2 best examples I can think of. It brings moisture into your skin. We were actually talking about this the other day. Does a humectant? This is a question for Andy. Does a humectant bring transport moisture into your skin, or does it help bring moisture that's really far in your fingers to the top?
What did you find out?
I'm asking you now. I think my understanding is it takes the moisture that is in the humectant and brings it further into your skin. But somebody was like, no, I don't think so. So we're going to have to look that up.
That's interesting. I know a lot of gymnasts actually put honey on their hands before they chalk.
Right.
And I wonder if it does it. So does it take the moisture off of the surface?
I think it pushes moisture further in.
Okay.
It definitely doesn't take it off the surface, but I think it would probably make your hands more. This is really interesting that gymnasts have been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
And it hasn't made it to climbing yet. And it's kind of what I've been thinking, like, all right, let's make a humectant that we can put on our hands and keep that skin
It'd be interesting
flexible.
to try it. You know, my only worry would be overusing honey and then getting honey on holds, and it'll be horrible.
Yeah.
But but yeah, gymnasts have used honey, and some use Coca-Cola on their hands.
That would be, it's going to be like a high sugar content, thicker syrup. So I could see that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
I've never even thought about trying it as a climber, but I'd be willing to try it indoors first and see what happens. You know?
Just try it at your kitchen table first and see what happens.
Yeah.
We definitely put, I'm looking at Andy, but I think I was probably the only one that did it. I definitely put glycerin and honey on my hands while we were making this just to see like what it did.
Yeah.
And it's not as sticky as you would think. And you can always wipe it off.
Right.
But maybe if we had like a humectant, which would be glycerin or honey in a different solution that was able to bring it into your hands, that would be interesting. That's something we'll have to play with.
Yeah. I like that you guys are thinking outside the box here, you know, with all sorts of directions, you know, targeting the people who have super dry skin, the people who have super wet skin. I think that's, you know, trying to figure out what's the best for each person.
Yeah, get
rather
the system.
than just this is the product for everybody, you know.
Right.
And I think that fits right into what we do because, you know, we don't believe in a one size fits all approach to training, and I think it should probably be the same with skincare. We don't all have the same skin, you know.
Not even close.
Cool. Anything else you guys have that you put out there, or anything you want to put out into the interwebs?
Wash your hands. Wash your hands immediately after you're done rock climbing. Get the chalk off of them, and then put on some repair cream. Drink a beer.
Yeah. Good advice.
That's our thing.
Where can people find you?
rhinoskinsolutions.com. You can order anything you want off of our website right there. We are in a few retail outlets across the country. You can check out our website for those, mostly climbing gyms. There's a couple stores, Red Point, climbing in Terrebonne, and then Rockin' Snow in New Paltz. Okay. Those are retail outlets that are actually just stores and not gyms, but we're in quite a few gyms as well.
Okay, cool. Question for you guys. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Can we make a discount code for the Power Company podcast listeners?
Sure, absolutely. What should it be? Power Company. Right, Power Company.
Let's just go Power Company.
Sweet. And 15% off.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a good deal.
Sweet.
So thank you guys a ton for inviting me into Merle here. And, I'm stoked to have gotten to hang out with you guys and chat about skincare and
absolutely,
you know, just to hang out in general.
It's been great to meet you.
And you know, all you guys know where you can find us on the interwebs. You can find us on the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Pinterests. Even though we still don't know what the hell Pinterest is for, we're there. But you will not find us on the Twitters because we don't tweet. We scream like eagles. This time